Jack here, JBF Music and Guitar Lessons. I'm back with these kind of analysis, critique reaction videos for you. Before I get into anything, I just want to say a huge shout out to Rabbi Rabs and a thank you for their support on Patreon. Cheers, dude. But yeah, this has been requested a lot. This is Maid Manners / Black Hole. My videos end up being about half an hour at the best of times, so if this is two songs together, I'm probably going to split into two different videos. I almost forgot to say there, I'm going to pause the video a lot and talk about what's going on, so if you just want to watch the original, this probably isn't for you. It's my obligatory warning message before we proceed. Okay, this is cool. This is a nice slow build up we're getting here. There's just the only thing I wanted to say there's just a really cool sound on the drums. Can hear everything really clearly. It's just nice. There's a good live sound to it, but there's also a nice kind of high end to the kick drums. So instead of it just being this low kind of woomph, there's this nice, like in metal, you sometimes get a click on it, which is a bit too much for me. They found a really nice mixture here of having like the kind of higher frequencies to let the kind of the attack cut through, combined with the lower ones that give it that kind of feeling of weight. Okay, before everything kicks off, as always, she has a killer bass tone. One of these days I'm going to have to spend a bit of time and trying to imitate it a bit. I can see there she's using an orange head into orange cabs. I'm going to have to try and mock up something like that, because it's, again, it's like the bass drum. It's this great combination between this high-end clarity and this low-end kind of thud. As always, great playing, nice together and in the pocket. I mean, what more can you say, really? There's a cool thing they're doing here that I think they did in, oh, which song was it? Was it maybe Play? Please correct, I'm probably wrong, just correct me there. They're like doubling certain accents on the guitar, so that doom, doom is coming out kind of both. I'll put it back, that'll explain it better. Yeah, so it's like 1, 2. So she's playing, Konami's playing on the first beat, and Miku's playing on the second beat with her, so you get this 1, 2 kind of thing going on. It's just when you've got the two guitars, rather than having them play exactly the same thing all the time, it's a great way to make things pop. What springs to mind actually is Nirvana song, I think it's Lounge Act, and Nevermind, there's an extra guitar that comes in just before the chorus, and it just gives us this extra kind of pop, this extra kind of stab on these two notes before it goes in. And it's a really, really clever trick, because what you're doing is bringing the dynamics up without having to make the whole song louder. You can do it with good drummers as well. They'll do this. What they'll do is, rather than play the whole chorus loud, they'll maybe hit a kind of louder just leading into it in the first couple, maybe the first beat or something, so almost like a kind of fill in, and then take the volume down a tiny bit. So instead of the whole chorus being like significantly louder, it just gives this push of excitement, but then doesn't take up too much of the space in terms of all the instruments going on. This is the most like thrill of any of their songs I've heard so far. It's got this kind of slow, kind of plodding rock vibe to it. Cool, yeah, and they're doing this thing with the guitars where they're just kind of accenting certain bits that they want accented. It's got this Skid Row vibe again. I don't know if Skid Row are an influence from them. It's maybe more Guns N' Roses, but that's kind of what I'm getting from this. Just cool, kind of like almost like sleazy guitar playing. Nice. Okay, so that was a really cool chord progression. It had a very Mixolydian sound. So kind of again, kind of Guns N' Roses-y, Velvet Revolver. Sweet Child of Mine has a similar thing. Specifically, the verses of Sweet Child of Mine, that's what you'd call Mixolydian. Again, this is probably something I'll break down in a bit more detail. But if it has that kind of rock feel to it, that's partly why. This is so far has been quite an understated song. It just feels it's more about them kind of gelling in than everything going off on a tangent. But I mean, we're only 1 minute 45 into this, so it could go anywhere. That's the closest thing I've seen to a solar former so far. Brilliant that she's got the confidence to do that. It's the sort of thing, bending, it's once you get the muscle memory, once you get the confidence, it's fine. But initially, it can be a bit of an uphill struggle. Particularly if anyone here plays guitar, you'll know as soon as you play in front of people or there's something recording it, your ability immediately takes a nosedive. So to do things confidently, where that's the first bit of kind of note manipulation or anything I've seen from her, so awesome. It's great to see that. Just that riff they're playing there, the kind of do-do-do-do-dun-dun-dun. It's got this really nice use of chromaticism, so again, these are kind of notes slightly out with the scale to give it a bit more edge and a bit more swagger. That was a really cool sort of synchronized, almost like a mini fill between the drums and the bass there. If you listen to them, they're locking in and playing the same rhythms. It's a really effective thing for the rhythm section to do. So or a rhythm, something like that. If you listen to the drums, they're following the same kind of beats. Okay, you need to let me know if that's part of the click track, or if they put a pitch shifter on her vocals and put that down. It's just distortion on someone and pitch shifted down saying 1, 2, 3, 4. If I can do this in post production, in fact I probably will be able to. I'll take my voice and I'll pitch shift it down. So you get this kind of ridiculous, almost sub bass kind of noise.
On the flip side, you can put it up as well to make it sound ridiculous and like a chipmunk.
Cool. I'm going to pop that back to the solo and break some stuff down that's going on there. What I really liked was she was using the vocal melody to start off the solo. It's a great way of making sure a solo is melodic to either replicate the vocal line or do a kind of embellishment on it. And because singers have to breathe, it makes the guitar sound a bit more human as well, because you can't sing a million notes a second, although you can play them on guitar, right? Yeah, so there you start to add in some more guitar mannerisms after we kind of established the kind of more melodic thing of it, using stuff like vibrato and slides again to make it sound a bit more human. And even that bend, you could have gone and kind of gone for more of the kind of theme of the vocals and expanded on it, but here she's taken it as an opportunity to just go, well, this is a guitar solo, so I'm going to play some guitar, right? And just some cool jumped up bluesy licks. So if you played these slower and with less distortion, they would sound pretty bluesy, but when you crank up the gain, you crank up the speed, they have this much more kind of rock sound to them. There's like a funky horn or synth horn section really quietly in the background there. I wouldn't mind those being up further in the mix. That would totally change the context of the song though, wouldn't it? Brilliant. You hear there, da-na-na, da-na-na. Cool, and they're all just accent the same thing here, and again with her vocals, this great mix. When that section started, it was kind of breathy, and then she added in a bit of that, what you call like a vocal fry on the never ending. You hear a bit of that kind of like coming in over the top. It's like if you make the noise of being, the best way to describe it is kind of indifferent about something, that kind of groan. It's about that and putting more stomach into it, more power. Then you start to sort of control it a bit more, and you can, instead of it just being a kind of an easily vocal fry like that, you can make it a bit more musical like she's done here. And just a hint of it, she's just bringing it in a little bit. Brilliant. See, that's really interesting because this sounds a lot more like their choruses tend to sound like. They've changed it enough just to make it more upbeat. I'm going to have to go and listen to the choruses before and then this and kind of compare and contrast exactly what they've done. I know the guitar part's changed a bit and the drums have changed, but I suspect there's other little tweaks they've done as well. What's really interesting is because I heard those like kind of horn sections in that other part of the song. I'm now hearing her guitar part as like a horn part arranged for guitar, which I wouldn't have thought of otherwise. But now I'm getting this whole other like funky vibe to it. Like you can imagine the guitar on the right here, the kind of lead guitar, being played by a horn section if you listen to it. It's amazing how effective these tiny things are. Like in the bass, they're just going between those notes. They're just to like it's like almost like a mini fill. It just creates more movement in the track. Again, tiny with the drums. It's gone down to like an almost kind of boy band type pop outro here. Fantastic. Cool. I mean, what can you say? That was great. Again, a different vibe, more in line with Thrill than anything else I've heard from them so far. Another thing that did pop into my head there, the final chorus, is the bass is doing all 16th notes, which really helps give a song drive. So by 16th notes, I mean, say your tempo's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 beats. You'd call that quarter notes because there's 4 of them. If it was 8th notes, it'd be double. So it'd be 1, add 2, add 3, add 4, add. So 1, add 2, add 3, add 4, it adds up to 8 eighth notes. If it's 16, and you can probably figure this out, it's double, so you'd have 1E, add a 2E, add a 3E, add a 4E, add a... So if you listen to what she's doing, it's got this do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do. Obviously she's doing kind of leading notes in between the chords, but it just gives this extra kind of like a sensation of movement, of building up to something, and in this case it was the end of the song. Cool, so all that being said, let's break down some of the stuff that went on there. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to break down is that riff and how the parts work together, which you probably more or less piece together from the videos being overlaid on the screen there. But you basically have one riff and different parts are being kind of played or maybe highlighted by different instruments. So the main part, guitar 1, the lead guitar is... So you're just going down chromatically, open string, and then back up the same way. So a bit slower. The bass is playing exactly the same thing, but because it's a bass guitar on the E string, it's an octave lower, so you get this kind of beefy sound from the bass, just doubling that. Just fills out the sound a bit more. So I tell you what, I'll actually put the guitars on by themselves without the bass, and then bring the bass in so you can hear how much fullness that adds to the sound. Cool, and as you probably picked up there, the second guitar, the rhythm part, rather than playing this, it's just accenting. So accenting is it's a muso term for saying like making something stand out. If you accent a beat, you kind of play it a bit stronger or make it pop out. So just these ones. And to make them pop even more, instead of just playing notes, we're playing power chords. So the same idea, but just building a chord on these notes that we've played. So you've got a power chord here, down to the 4th fret, down to that 3rd fret. And you kind of almost want to move your hand in one kind of smooth motion. If you try to catch each chord one at a time, it can be a bit more difficult. So if you just kind of get... You can see my hands almost kind of sliding. Not totally sliding because then it'd be a bit too fluid, but that's easier than kind of trying to jerkily get every chord. In terms of the note choice, this is what you call out of key. So this note here is G sharp, isn't in the key, but it just adds a bit of edge. So it's an A5, G sharp 5, G5, and then it just goes down to the riff, an E, back up to the G sharp, A, and this acts as a really nice lead in back to that A. Alright, second thing here is the chorus. So I kind of talked about a Mixolydian chord progression. So in essence, it's an A, G, then a D, back to an A. So you've basically got a 5 chords, a 4 chords, a 1 chord, and back to a 5. So all this basically means is we're in the key of D major, the 1 chord, that's the home, but because we're playing, well, kind of the 5 chord the most, we're starting and ending on it. By 5 chord, I just mean it's the 5th chord in the key. So D major, you start at D, then you go up to an E, F sharp, G, A. So it's the 5th note in the scale, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's what, when someone says 5 chord, that's all they mean, the 5th chord in the scale. Similarly, the 4 chord, 1, 2, 3, 4 is a G, right? But because this A is the kind of main focus of the progression, that's what you kind of call our tonal center. So this means rather than playing an A major scale, we play an A Mixolydian scale. Almost identical, just one note difference. The Mixolydian has this note, the G, rather than the G sharp. You might recognise it from, I think it's a David Bowie song, it might be Man Who Sold the World. Starts off with that riff, that's just going up what you call a Mixolydian scale. Also, Bohemian Rhapsody, it's higher in the solo. Or something like that. It kind of goes up just that scale. So it's a sound, if you listen to rock and kind of Bowie and Queen and these bands, you probably know already. And like I mentioned, the A Mixolydian is incredibly similar to A Dorian. So if you didn't spot the difference, I would totally understand, because it's just one note. You got this one in A Dorian, a C, where you have a C sharp, and A Mixolydian, right? So because they're so similar, and because the blues kind of takes advantage of the similarity, we're used to hearing them being interchanged. You know, bands like AC/DC and stuff like that, this type of thing is all over the playing. And in fact, Konami even uses this, what you'd call the flat third, the minor third, and the riff she plays. So it goes a bit like this. So you might notice there, the last bar, there's this little fill. So if we're playing strictly in key, it'd be But using this minor third here just gives it that kind of slightly more bluesy edge. So it'll slow down the chords there. You've got and just to show the slight difference between Mixolydian and Dorian, the modes, I'll play some major stuff over that chord progression, and then I'll switch to Dorian, and hopefully you'll be able to hear the kind of subtle differences between the two. So you can kind of hear the Mixolydian's a bit more kind of upbeat, maybe a bit more cheesy, definitely more major, maybe sound a bit more like Queen. And then you got something like the Dorian, which is a bit more, maybe a bit cooler, a bit kind of bluesier, a bit maybe more like AC/DC. And when I mix the two there, it maybe sounded a bit more like Leonard Skinner or something in that vein. Click there for more bandmaid specific things, or there for more reactions. Hit subscribe if you want to keep up to date with the channel, all that good stuff. But thanks for watching, guys. Have a good one.